About what is it right we have the 75 pesos is including taxes or after taxes? I'm not going to answer anything. Before, just in case, no?
Just in case we want to move money.
Das sind doch ganz schön viel.
No,
Casi ya teníamos. Oye, pues hay que presentar cómo funcionan a los tres juntos, para que Mónica nos diga cómo trabaja.
Mónica está ahí. Filip, mañana después del desayuno, ¿qué hacéis?
Yo salgo de viaje
Hoy. No, entonces no. Bueno.
así que todavía no sé qué hago mañana después del desayuno.
No, pues entonces espérate hoy. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos de nuevo. Aquí estamos en el taller sobre, como dice ahí, metadatos. Les presento a las dos personas que van a impartir este taller. Aquí a mi derecha, Jan Götze. Él trabaja como gestor de desarrollo de negocios en el departamento internacional LEBS de la empresa MBB, que junto con la Feria del Libro de Frankfurt son las dos subsidiarias de la Asociación de Editores y Libreros de Alemania. Con sus soluciones informáticas, la empresa representa un pilar fundamental en el ecosistema del libro alemán. En 2017, ambas empresas lanzaron conjuntamente la versión brasileña de la plataforma alemana de libros disponibles. Jan se unió a MBB hace 3 años. Al comienzo era responsable de la dirección técnica en el desarrollo de la plataforma brasileña y actualmente es responsable de la internacionalización de productos de la MBB. La plataforma en Brasil se llama Metabooks y también estamos hablando con distintos integrantes del mercado mexicano, colombiano, chileno, argentino, etcétera, sobre la posible implementación de esa plataforma en estos países. Además, Jan ha organizado el Premio Alemán de Autoedición y fue parte del proceso de innovación de la empresa. Tiene estudios de grado en Ingeniería Mecánica y de Procesos y un posgrado en Tecnología y Filosofía. A su derecha está Carlos Rojas. Ya se los presenté ayer, pero para los que no estaban, les cuento que estudió periodismo en la Escuela de Periodismo Carlos Septién García. Se ha desempeñado en los ámbitos de difusión, promoción y comercialización del libro en distintas instituciones mexicanas. Fue subdirector de prensa de la Coordinación Nacional de Literatura del Instituto Nacional de Bellas Artes, jefe de difusión del Fondo de Cultura Económica y gerente de mercadotecnia de la red de librerías Educal. Actualmente es director de mercadotecnia de Metabooks, un proyecto apoyado por MBB y Feria del Libro de Frankfurt, cuyo objetivo es compartir experiencias, prácticas y procesos del mercado del libro alemán con la industria editorial.
Sorry that I don't speak any Spanish, so I will speak in English. It might be a little bit easier for you, like I'm speaking German. Like Mary-Fay already introduced this workshop, it's about metadata and make books visible. Both, so me, myself, Jan Götze, working for MBB, and Carlos Rojas, working for Metabooks here in Mexico, will help this workshop. So I thought you got already a brief introduction of ourselves, so we will skip this part from our side and move on a little bit further. Let me tell you a little bit something about what the MBB is. Like you can see here on the slide, we are belonging to the German Publishers and Booksellers Association. So that is the chamber, the book chamber in Germany. In Germany, there's just one book chamber for everyone, like the booksellers and the publishers and the distributors and everyone who's belonging to the book market. And then there are the two subsidiaries. On the one hand side, the Frankfurt Book Fair, and on the other hand side, the MVB, for whom I'm working for. The MVB is, like Murphy already told to you, is kind of an IT service distributor. That is our main business. Besides this, we have even a kind of publishing. It's that we publish two magazines for the book market. One is meant to be for the end customer, and the other one is meant to be for the booksellers to inform them about new titles and spread news about the branch. We offer three main products, so these are our digital products. One is Metabooks. In Germany, it's called VLB. That is short for Verzeichnis lieferbarer Bücher. I think that doesn't make any sense to you. It's just in English, books in print. Metabooks is a tool which is meant to be as a centralized metadata base. So everyone can store there, mostly the publishers, store their metadata there, and then we spread this metadata to everyone who needs this kind of data, like booksellers and distributors. Then beside Metabooks, there's the product VLB-Tix. VLB-Tix is kind of like a tool for marketing. So like in most markets, it's like the publishers work with their catalogs, printed catalogs where all books, new books, novelties are included. And with VLB-Tix, you can just take these catalogs and make them digital. So it's easier to spread these catalogs all over the country. And then there's a third service we offer that is called PubNet. That's a very new business. We just bought from in the US, so we are very new in this business. And this is an e-commerce service. That means booksellers can use the service to make directly directly buy books from the publishers. So this is kind of a technical thing. And this is like these three products belong to each other. They're combined. They make the book market much more efficient. We are active in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So this is our home market. Like this is a German-speaking market. Besides this, we are right now active in USA, Brazil, and Mexico. Other countries will come. So today's workshop is about metadata. So let us give a brief example of what it is about. So please, Carlos.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Bueno, gracias por acompañarnos. Y bueno, durante toda desde el día de ayer hemos hablado como de la importancia de los metadatos y ahora más como no estamos tan seguros de qué tan familiarizados estamos cada uno con los metadatos, vamos a empezar como qué son. Yo cuando llegué hace 4 meses a trabajar a Metabooks, pues era una palabra que escuchaba, pero tampoco me quedaba clara. Ahora creo que me quedará un poco más, pero ahí lo vamos a ir descubriendo juntos. Este es un ejemplo que hizo Jan, es en realidad una gráfica muy sencilla. Lo que se trata aquí, o sea, se ve un libro, Pedro Páramo, y esa nube de pensamiento. Jan lo que trataba de poner ahí era cuando a uno le dicen o le refieren un libro, uno piensa en ciertas palabras referentes a ese libro. Pusimos, por ejemplo, este libro, que es Pedro Páramo, de Juan Rulfo, y uno pone lo que sabe de ese libro. En este caso, Jan puso 3 palabras, que es el apellido del autor, landowner, que es el terrateniente, ¿no? Que en ese caso es Pedro Páramo, y el año de publicación. Si uno tiene esos 3 datos, con esos 3 datos ahora en Google, todo el mundo estamos familiarizados con Google, si uno pone cualquier dato, te va a referenciar a algo. Entonces, los metadatos son esa pequeña partícula que nos permite encontrar en ese universo que es el todo, el Internet, o sea, donde hay todo. Si uno no sabe cómo identificar las cosas, pues ese todo se convierte en realidad en una especie de vacío en el que uno no sabe qué encontrar. Así que, pues los metadatos son como esa partícula elemental que permite saber qué es lo que buscamos. Esta es una definición que creo que es muy clara sobre qué son los metadatos en el concepto de la industria editorial, ¿no? En el mundo editorial, la forma más sencilla de pensar en los metadatos es que no son el contenido del libro, sino información acerca de lo que contiene el libro. Entonces, bueno, aunque es una definición muy básica, empieza una complicación en entender cómo es que eso se cruza o cómo es que esa cosa se cruza en un asunto técnico que tiene que ver con cómo se visibilizan los datos de nuestros libros. Como estamos en un taller, pensamos que todos ustedes tienen una tarjetita al lado o una pluma. Entonces, a partir de esta definición, que los metadatos no son el contenido del libro, sino la información acerca de ese contenido, nos gustaría preguntarles qué tipo de metadatos conocen en un libro. Nos ayudarían a escribir en esa tarjetita que tienen, o sea, si yo les pregunto, ¿cuáles son los tipos de metadatos que se aplican al libro? ¿Cuáles son las palabras o las definiciones que se les ocurre poner por ahí? Vamos a dar un minutito para que las escriban y ahorita yo voy a recoger las tarjetitas. Ahorita yo voy a pasar por las tarjetitas y Jan va a continuar hablando.
¿Sobre este libro o sobre cualquier libro?
No, cualquier libro, o sea, para la industria editorial, para la industria del libro, ¿qué es un metadato aplicado a la industria del libro? A partir de la idea de que no es el contenido del libro, sino información que
So thank you, first of all, for taking part and being an active part here as well in the workshop. I will start now with a little different topic. We will come back later to what you have written down, so you can see why we have done it. So I will now talk a little bit about the question how the book industry would look without metadata, to get you a view why it is necessary to think even about using metadata or why it is really a necessary thing. So let's start with a look on how the world works for publishers. So publishers normally have to handle the books they get from the author. The problem is they have to offer these books to the bookstores. And if you don't have metadata, that means that you just have to collect all your books, take them and carry them to the bookstores. That means you have this huge amount of books and you have to carry them around, and that is very inefficient. That's really you can barely do this. It's too, the time which is needed is just takes too much effort. And then there's a problem. Mexico is a really huge country. That means you have to travel a lot. That costs a lot of money and so on. So publishers have the problem without metadata that they cannot announce their title to the booksellers. On the other hand side, there are bookstores or booksellers, and they need to buy the books from the publishers. That means the problem for the bookstores is, on the other hand side, like the publishers cannot offer the titles to the bookstores without the metadata. The problem is that the big bookstores cannot have a look which titles are available at the moment in the market. They just can go to the different publishers, or they can wait until the publishers come to them, and then they can have a look on the book itself, on the physical stuff. So that is really complicated. And then there's, in this whole process chain, the customers. Customers have the problem that there are print books, e-books, audio books. There are hundreds of stores that they can buy books. There are a lot of online stores. There are here in Mexico more than 100,000 titles, more than 20,000 novelties per year, which came out newly to the market. And think about markets like Germany. We have right now 2.5 million active titles in the market. We have more than 80,000 novelties per year, and that's just the commercial market. So for the customer, it's really hard to find the right book. So there's only one way to buy a book: go to the bookstore and pick it out of the shelf. But even this is a little bit hard without metadata. So in the end, the problem is that it's about discoverability. So the reader just wants to have a book, and he has to choose from this huge amount of books. That means he has a look on the different titles, and sometimes he knows directly what kind of book he wants to buy. Like in the example, he knows which book, but he doesn't know the title in example. Or for me, it's most often I have no idea clearly which book I want to buy. It's just that I have an idea which from which category I want to buy. Is this a sci-fi romance? It's like a, criminal literature or something like this. So I don't have a real idea what the right book is for me. So to understand how this works in a better way, we can have a look how the reader makes his decision. And normally it's just an easy process. It's like he searches for a book, he finds the book, and then he buys it. And in all of these steps, in these 3 steps, it's very interesting how metadata works in it. So if you as a customer think of yourself as a customer, how do you search for books? Most often you just use a quick search in an online store. So most titles are today bought by online stores. But even if you're going to a bookstore, they have computers you can type in if they have the title you're searching for. And if you enter a title in a quick search, you most often use keywords. And keywords are already metadata. That is nothing that is just written, nothing written directly to the book. Keywords must be picked and they must make sense because they must fit to how a reader searches for a title. So therefore, metadata is needed. Then there are recommendations. And in an old school classical analog market, it's like recommendate from one person to another. But as we have seen in the example, even this is a little bit hard because which kind of information do you give? The cover is something you can just remember, so you can see it. If you see it once again, that's nice, but that is nothing you can type in in a search engine. And then most of all, more important is that recommendations are today written in online stores, online platforms, blogs, journalists give recommendations. So this, once again, is a digital way to recommendate. And if it's in a digital way, we are not transporting the content itself, the data itself, we are transporting the metadata. And at least searching means that you are browsed through. It can be in a store, you're browsing, like you're walking around, just have a look in the shelves of a bookstore, but today we do it most often digital, so you're just browsing on a website. But the online stores are not like they are unorganized and you have all titles at once in one view. It's like they give you already these recommendations. So if you're browsing a site of a bookstore, an online store, so you are having a look on selected data, and even therefore you need to know which kind of data should be shown. So that is how readers normally do the first step, like searching for a book, and then they need to find this book. If you enter just something in a quick search, you will get a hit list of books which fit to what you are searching for. Or even if you are browsing through categories, it's like you get a hit list in the end. So you can make a selection, and that is what you are doing. You browse just this hit list, have a look, and if something fits to what you need, you will just select it. Most often on online platforms, rankings are used. But once again, in the bookstore, it's the same. Bookstores, especially in Germany, I think what I've seen here in Mexico, it's not that common, but in Germany, most bookstores are organized by rankings. So we have different kinds of bestseller lists. And if you enter a market, first of all, you will see the titles which are the most sold titles in the market. And then you go deeper and deeper in the store, and then you find just the subgenres. If this is good or bad, that is something else. That's not a topic today. I most often like it if you go to a store and it's more unique and such things. But yeah, everyone has this to decide this on their own. Most of all, it's a question then if how a product is presented. Like if you have stores up or the online platforms, the product must be shown to a customer. And that means most often you just have a look on the cover, but beside the cover you are interested in the title, in the author, because I think every one of us has a favorite author. Or you want to know the price, you want to know even the page numbers. And then, as I already said, that's the pricing of a book, so that is interesting because I think no one can afford books which are too expensive. In the end, it's a question how the decision is made by the customer. And there, the presentation, the kind of presentation is the most important part. So because you don't know what the content is about, you need to get a picture why you should buy this this title. And that is why covers are so important, because if you don't have this impression of how the book looks, you mostly don't like to buy it. Beside this, presentations are mostly graphical, but even the most basic data, the description of the title is very interesting. So most often used, it's just the main description or the synopsis of a title, because this gives you a short introduction what the title will be about. And then there is additional product information. Like I already mentioned, there's something like keywords and like categorization. But we will get to this a little bit closer in a minute. So come back to the definition of metadata. And this is given in this case from Amanda Giugiglieri. Sorry if I have pronounced it in the wrong way. My Spanish is really bad. I imagine metadata as if it were bookshelves in a bookstore. The more metadata you include, the more bookshelves you have using to exhibit your books. And that means, first of all, if there's incomplete metadata, you are not able to present it in the right way. And in the other hand side, it's like online stores give the possibility to just show the whole catalog of a market. So if you don't have the metadata of books, you cannot present them, so they are not in your shelves. And that is very important for online stores. So let's make one step further. Let's take a journey through the woods of metadata. It's a really complicated, it gets kind of complicated because there's so much different kinds of metadata. And the next slides will get a little bit technical. It's just a small part, so excuse me, but I think it gives you good introduction how metadata works. So let's have a look what different kinds of metadata exist. So first of all, there are statistics. So bestsellers, there are awards given to books, and every kind of this information can be collected. And there are algorithms. So even many people are right now working on such things like algorithms which are able to analyze a book and find out which will be the next bestseller. As far as I know, they are not that successful right now, but I think that might be a real interesting thing in the future. Besides the statistics, we have information about and from the reader. So we can personalize the reader, so create personas if you collect data like the age and the gender. Besides this, readers give us information as well. Like everyone can today give recommendations, so that everyone is able to write a review. And in the end, journalists and bloggers are readers as well, but they have a different platform to show their reviews. And they can rate, so that is very important today to make these recommendations. Then we have market data. That is something we had before lunch. We had a nice talk where David Penman was included, and Nielsen Bookscan is doing exactly this. They collect market data to give you information which books are sold much and how the selling of these books works. So it's about the sales, but it's even about which kinds of publishers are active in the market and something like clearing. So that means order clearing, how the orders work. So who is right now ordering from who and such things. Then we have information about the booksellers and from the booksellers. So we collect this information about booksellers, but booksellers can give suggestions as well or recommendations. They can write critics and they have stock info, what might be really interesting to handle. So they need to know, or they need to give this information for the reader, so he will be aware if he can right now buy this title or not, or if it's just out of sale, or will it even not be available anymore. So this kind of stock information is something that booksellers can offer to the reader to make clearer for him if this book can be bought right now at this moment. But in the end, the most important thing, and this is the biggest tree for us, and that is what we are handling in the first way at our company, is the core information, the core metadata. So this is the information that belongs directly to the book. So we have categories, we have prices, we have a cover, we have an ISBN, we have a title, subtitle, and so on. So we will now have a deeper look in what kind of this core information exists and how it works to work with it. So let's have a look what basic metadata is. So the core information includes a lot of information, but there's basic metadata. Depends on a study of Nielsen UK. They had a look on how metadata works, and they figured out which is the most important metadata information. So this is what we call basic metadata. And that was the reason why we collected all this information from your side, what you think is the most important information of a book. And so think of yourself if you have the right things in your mind, because this is what definitely, based on certain studies, is the most important information you can give to as metadata for your book. So it's the ISBN, the title, the format of the book, like if it's a hardcover or it's soft cover, something like this. The publication date, clearly the classification or categorization. We will come to this a little bit later. The retail price, sales rights, I think especially here in Latin America, very interesting because there's a lot of cross sales between the different Spanish-speaking countries, especially between these Spanish-speaking countries. And the cover image, because the presentation and the first thing you will see, and the contributor. Nice thing in English is that you can make a difference between contributor and author. Doesn't work in every language that well, so that means contributors are all people who are related to book, like an author, like an editor, like an illustrator, and so on. But beside this basic metadata, there's additional information. So that is something based on the same studies, which is the most important additional information to push the visibility of your title even a little bit more further. So it's about the language, it's about the dimensions, very important today because a lot of books were just shipped and not bought directly in the bookstores. The availability, so like I already said, that the reader will be aware if the title is available or not. The edition, I think that's most important for university press books because you want to show which edition it is. Like I remember in my university time, it was they recommended exactly one edition. If you bought the wrong one, sometimes you could not follow up in the lections, so it was problematic. So it might be really interesting for you to have information about the edition. The page number. So for me, the page number is very interesting because I have problems. I'm struggling if I read books with more than 400 or 500 pages. So I have a look. I just buy books which are less than 300 pages. It's just a personal thing, but I'm not sure. Maybe one or the other here in the room does the same thing. Then the synopsis or main description, or in something like what gives you an inside view what the book is about. And as I already said, the keywords. But even with this basic and additional format information, that is not everything. There are overall hundreds of options you can offer and can make clear how this book is specified. So that is overall a problem because you have to communicate this information. And like you can figure out in our example, even there we have a problem that somebody is telling you something about a book and you can barely remember all the information you have been given. But even then, if somebody here in the room recommend me a book of a Spanish author, it's really, really hard to remember the name. But if I remember the name, I'm not able to write it down in the right way. So it makes it even harder. So to transport or communicate about this information is even for people hard. But then in the digital age, we have a problem that machines communicate. And machines are, in case of communication, they are more reliable. So they don't make so much mistakes. They don't forget about something. They don't have an appointment, which is so important that I forgot to send an email. But in some cases, they are just dumber than people. They think, and that is a nice example, I think, with authors. Like, you have the problem that there are, and especially here in Mexico, I guess, or in Latin American countries, you people have a lot of names. So in Germany, it's more common to have just a forename and a last name, but here most people have just 2 forenames, 2 last names. Sometimes you write down one and the other, and then the other one again. So if you do such kind of communication between computers, they will think that one person is just 5 different persons, because computers cannot decide if just because the name is a little bit written different, they cannot decide if this is the same person. So that is the struggle we have when we work with metadata. It needs to be communicated. Like we have seen, the publishers want to transport the information to the booksellers want to receive information from publishers, and then once again, they want to give it to the reader. And in all the whole process, machines work a little bit in it, and then people work in it. So we have the problem of communication. Therefore, different kinds of standards exist. So my question for you right now here is, what kind of standards do you know? You can just talk to me, hopefully in English, so I will understand what you say. So you can just shout out what comes to your mind. Absolutely right, the ISBN.
Maybe some classification of Dewey or something like that, ISAC or.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Standards, right?
Classification systems are standards, absolutely. Very important today.
Mark 21 in the world of climate science.
Yeah, Mark 21 is exactly, that is a standard as well. So I will move to a slide where I've displayed some of these standards. And like you already said, there's ISBN is already written on it. There's Mark 21, there's BISAC, and there are even some others, but this is just a handful of standards. These are examples. There are a lot of other different standards. So, but let's have a look. You can group them because these standards, so I've picked out 3 of every kind. So they're different working, these standards work in a different way. Like ISBN, the DOI, I'm not sure if you are already familiar with DOI. That was the idea to create it works kind like the ISBN, but it works as well like an URL. So the DOI is an individual number which is given to every book, and it's not so common to use, but if you give it to a book, you can even put it in your browser, and then you will be linked directly to a web page which displays the information about the book, so you can present the metadata. And beside this, there is the ISNI. That is just an example for that you can give individual numbers, so like an identifier number for the author. So you can solve the problem with the different written names by just say, there's one author with a lot of different names and a lot of versions how the name is written. And you give him just an identification number. So if you use this number for machines, it's always clear which author is meant to be, even if there's something written in a different way. Beside these kinds of numbers, these are identifier numbers. They are just unique given numbers to an author or to a title. There is another group of standards, and this is BISAC, BIG, THEMA, for example, DUE as well. These are classification systems. That means you classify titles. I will come to this a little bit later, so I give you a little bit more information how these work. And beside this, we have ONIC, Mark 21, and SYNLI. These are standards which are working even in a different way. But yeah, I'll give you even about this more detailed information as well in a second. So let's have a closer look to one example of all these groups. So I think most of you will be familiar with the ISBN, or you know that there are ISBNs existing. I just displayed here how they are built. For us, it's really important because we work with ISBNs and we need to know how they are created and who is related to this. So an ISBN is created of 5 different parts. So first of all, there's a prefix. It's 978. It's all around the globe. It's just 978. That is picked out because ISBNs have 13 digits, exactly like the GTIN. And the GTIN is what you need to create the barcodes on a book. So if you want to put a barcode on a book, so you can just scan them in a shop, you need to put on a GTIN. And to make this GTIN unique or related to an ISBN, you use this prefix 978. And then there's 979. I think it's used in France, but this is very special. As the next block in the ISBN, there's a group number. And this group number makes it easy to figure out from which country the ISBN comes. So in this case, we have the 607. And the 607 means that this is a Mexican title. So for example, Germany just has the 3 there. So if you have a look on an ISBN, or a GTIN, you can see with this 978, oh yeah, this is an ISBN. Then I can have a look on the second block and I can see clearly, oh yeah, this is a title from Mexico. The next one, the number or the block publisher, that is a new unique number that is given for every publisher. So publishers get their own ISBN numbers and then they can use them. And so you can identify even by just having a look on the ISBN from which publishing house it was given out. The next number is a number which is just arbitrary, so publishers give just this number out. So in this case, if in this case it's the 1, 2, so it makes it specific for the title. And the last digit is just a jack number that is just based on the other numbers, so you can just generate it automatically. So that is how an ISBN works. So this is, I think, the most common example for giving identifiers to books. Then there are the classification system. Here, for example, is how the BISAC codes work. And it's normally that you can classify your titles. That is really important because I already give you the example, like if you are searching just for a fiction book or philosophy book or photography book, you most often don't know exactly which title you want to buy. And therefore you are browsing categories. You do it on online platforms, but you do it in bookstores as well, because they order their shelves just exactly on this. So if publishers give this information, they make the work of the booksellers much easier and of the readers as well. And BISAC is, I think, one standard which is used that is very common to use in an intentional way. I think it's the most common classification system. You have 4,500 different BISAC codes, and what is nice about these is that you have different levels. So you can give it on a very basic level information, like I said, fiction, philosophy, photography, and so on. But then you can make it even a little bit more specific. Like you say, this is a fiction book, but it's romance, and it's about the history of love. And you can say it's history related, and then you can even make it specific to which time it comes. So you can really, really specific. And I think there are a lot of readers outside there which clearly know which kind of literature they want to read. So that makes it much easier for them to find just the right title. So that is what it is about these classification system. But there are a lot around, and it depends always on which kind of classification is used. Depends mostly on what is the need of the market. So an example in Germany, we don't use BISAC overall. We barely use BIC, what is the outdated old version of BISAC, but that is just used by for some of the older titles. We have a specific German classification system, what is called Warengruppe, and beside this, we try to shift right now in German to Thema. Thema is a classification system which is created by Editeur. That is a French company, but they kind of work is based on that they have the idea to create new international standards. And even they give out the Onyx codes, or the Onyx standard. And that is a great thing about Onyx and Thema, is that you can participate in both. I will tell you a little bit more about this later, or in the next slide. Right now I want to just let you know how something like Onyx or even Mark 21 or Sydney is working. So Onyx is more like a container, so you can put in there the information of the different other standards. Like you can see here, Onyx is wrapping around this information like ISBN, BISAC, publication date, and all possible given metadata. So it's in container, and it's meant to be that it's for an exchange of information. So the problem is, if you have already collected your ISBN and your BISAC code and so on, you need to push this information. And if you give it single, so you push at first you push the ISBN, then you push the BISAC code, that doesn't make sense. So you collect it in one file, in an Onyx file, and you can just push this one file and give the whole information at once. Onyx is right now the primary international metadata standard for books. So it's used in the most countries over all the world. And as I already said, it's developed and supported by Editeur. It's released since 2000, so there are different new versions. Right now we have started to work with Onyx 3.0. I think this version exists since 3 years, and it's got adapted now from the biggest book markets. And the idea is to streamlining the delivery of product metadata to book supply chain partners to make it easier to exchange this information. And the most important thing is that Onyx is not a static system, is even like Thema. So Editeur does it in a way that they have at least for Onyx 2 steering committee meetings per year. So everyone can participate in it. So you can get a partner of Editeur, and then you can work on yourself on Onyx. And I think this is very important because every book market in the world works a little bit different depending on the history of the book market. For example, when we launched Metabooks in Brazil, it was like we had problems to fit in the information about the educational system, and there was no option to display the information in the right way in Onyx. So they just adjusted the Onyx code, so an Onyx code list, and they adjusted the Onyx standards so it will fit to the Brazilian market as well. So as I said, every twice a year, they sit together and think how they can even improve the standard. So it's a living standard, and everyone can take part in it. The same like in Thema. So I think these are the both standards, like for Thema for classification and Onyx for metadata exchange. These are the most advanced standards right now to exchange information about books. So the idea behind Onyx is standardize as much as possible. That means there are more than 200 Onyx code lists. I will show you later on an Onyx code list to get an insight view how it works and what it means. And several different other standards are included in this Onyx standard, and it's about making data machine readable so you can exchange it to solve this communication problem. So while we are moving now deeper and deeper in this metadata thing, we will get even a little bit more technical. So don't get afraid, we will leave this in a minute once again. That is how an Onyx file looks. So it's based on an XML standard that is just a standard for exchange of machine readable data. I work since 3 years with metadata, and I'm barely not able to read Onyx files. I can have a look and I can point some things out and say this means this and this means this. But Onyx is not meant to work with it like this. So if you are providing services around Onyx, you need people who can do such things, but mostly it's not necessary to be able to write down such a file. Machines will do this for you. So I will give you some examples like how an ISBN is provided, the ISBN information is provided. So there is a section, and Onyx, because it's an XML file, is separated in different blocks or sections, and these sections are like grouped information. So first of all, there's the section with the product identifier. And this product identifier section, you can give different information. So all identifiers which are related to a book. What you can see here is that this is an ISBN. And the reason why I can be so sure that this is an ISBN, that there's a given code, the 15, wrapped around with a label B221. And this label B221 tells the machine which type of identifier will be given in the next tag. So in the ISBN you can see here labeled with the codes B242, and that is how you store information there. So it's about giving the information, but even make clear which kind of information you have given here. So the ISBN is typed as an ISBN. You even can, so if you change the 15 to an 03, I think, you will make sure that this is an GTIN and not an ISBN. And then it's wrapped around with this, in this block of product identifier. So that is one way to display information, and to give an ISBN is very easy. What you can see here is how a price is displayed. And the interesting thing is that if you have a price of a product, you don't only have a price, there's much more information you need to work with. For the customer, it's like, I'm a bookstore in Mexico, clearly the price which is written on this book is Mexican pesos. That is easy, but a bookstore has to handle with a little bit more information. And even if you do international sales, like you're buying books from somebody else, you need to know a little bit more. But then what is shown in the first section, there's a price type. So what we can see here, these two tags with the O2 tell me that this is a recommended retail price. So there are special prices, there are retail prices, recommended retail prices, and so on. A huge amount of possibilities to classify which kind of price it is. And you even can say there's a retail price and a recommended retail price. You can even give more information. Then clearly the price is displayed. You can give information about taxation. In this case, it's just without taxation. I think that is how it works here in Mexico. For us in Germany, sadly, we have a taxation on books. And then clearly the currency is interesting. Like you have here Mexican pesos, and you can even specify for which territory it's meant. That is something that's not that interesting for the market here. I guess it's more interesting, especially because we are working in Europe and we are working with 3 different German-speaking markets, and all of them are using euros, but we need to specify which European market or which market with the euro currency this price is related. So you need to specify for an Austrian market, an example, that this is an euro price, and this euro price is meant to be for the Austrian market or the German market, and so on. So that is how you give, for example, the information about prices. And so, like you can see here, it gets really complicated if you collect all this metadata. But let me first, before start to move out of this technical stuff, let me give you just another example. And that is how these code lists works and why they are so important. What you can see on your left side is that this is a list, or it's just a snip out of a list of the product form, how you can specify product forms. Like you can see, you can just define it as a book, but you can say this in hardcover, paperback, loose leaf, spiral bound, and so on. So you can make clear which kind of, which format of book it is. And then on the right side, you can see how this information is displayed in the Onyx file. And what you can see there, it's not written down that this is hardcover or paperback. There's just a code given, in this case, BC. And that is very important about this standards, because if you write down hardcover, or hardback as it's called here, hardback, you might write it in a different way. And if you write down it in a different way, machines cannot be clear that this hardback written like in 1 word or in 2 words is the same information. If you write down just the code, it's every time clear that it works. So that makes, that is meant to be, make it machine readable. But on the other hand side, there's something other important. A code like BC is in every language just the same. So you can provide this metadata to anyone else on the world, and he can just read this Onyx file and gets out the same information like everyone around the globe. So they are always aware of what you want to tell to them. So there's something you can imagine with this Onyx code. There's a little problem because, first of all, you don't want to write these Onyx files on yourself. So it's hard to manage data in a standardized way. I think I don't know anybody who's able to write Onyx files. I know one person at our company who clearly can name nearby every label, but he's the god of Onyx. That's really crazy. But yeah, as I said, you don't want to handle this information because as a person, it's not meant to be for humans. And that is the problem because it's about communication. And as I already said, it's one way is to communicate between different humans, but on the other hand side, most communications are today done by machines. So let's have a closer look on these problems. So that is how a metadata lifecycle looks. I'm not sure if you can. Oh yeah, it's easy to read, perfect. But we won't have a closer look. It's just that you have a look on it. Who creates metadata and who works with it? So at the beginning there are the publishers, then there are the distributors, and then in the end there are the sellers who sell the book, and then there's the reader who receives just the information. So metadata is used in a lot of places, and in a lot of places means that you have to exchange this information. And the problem, what you can see here, every one of these nice icons means one place. Like you have a web store, you have normal bookstores, you have the publishers, the readers who access this information as well. And if you communicate like it's shown here in this picture, like everyone communicates with everyone. So a publishing house gives all information just to manually to every bookseller, and every bookseller grabs information from the publishers once again. There's a huge opportunity of losing data because yeah, there's a problem. If you send it out by email, sometimes you forget about the email, sometimes you don't read it, sometimes, yeah, that is like sometimes something happens what is not meant to be. And that leads to outdated information, and it leads to quality problems, not because someone forgets about an email. It's about people have to type in information on their self. And like I know how it works here in Mexico is like if you are a publisher, you provide your information to different different platforms. Like you have to type it in for Perua in their system, then you manually type it in on your keyboard in the system of Gandhi, and you type it in another system, then we provide Excel files to someone. And if there's sitting a person just and typing in on the keyboard the information at least 10 times, you will have information which is 10 times different. And maybe he's not motivated enough, so he makes no clear quality control. And that is what leads to quality problems. And it takes a lot of time to deliver all the metadata to every point, and it takes a lot of time to control the quality of your metadata and create it. Like I said, if you have to create it 10 times, you have to invest 10 times the same time you used to create it just once. So there's one solution, and I would please Carlos to present the solution to you.
Bueno, después de esa explicación tan amplia que nos ha dado Jan de los metadatos, como se puede ver, los metadatos son cualquier tipo de información que tenga el libro, pero luego el problema es estandarizarla, clasificarla, de modo que todo esto que acabamos de ver no sea el trabajo del editor, sino que el editor se ocupe en lo que le importa, que es hacer los libros. Yo no conozco a ningún editor que le guste trabajar con metadatos, pero es importante saber que esa es la herramienta. En este momento es una de las herramientas fundamentales para poder vender libros. Hay soluciones, hay una solución, o sea, tener todos los datos centralizados en un lugar que puede jerarquizar, estandarizar la información y hacer la comunicación más fácil entre la persona que tiene los datos y quien los tiene que recibir para poder venderlos, es lo que hacen pues los programas, los sistemas o los proyectos que tienen como objetivo centralizar esos datos, de modo que el editor los pueda poner en un solo lugar y desde ese lugar se distribuyan a todos los canales, a todas las personas que los necesiten. Al principio les pedimos que escribieran qué era lo que entendían por metadatos. Bueno, si quieren se pueden acercar ahí, yo los he visto y claro que todos o casi todos estamos de acuerdo en los metadatos centrales, el título, el autor, en fin, pero hay gente que escribió, por ejemplo, ahí clasificaciones o tipo de portadas o datos mucho más específicos que también son metadatos. El problema es que alguien, difícilmente un humano, pero alguien tendría que clasificarlos en cuáles son los más importantes y de ahí irlos jerarquizando, de modo que siempre estén como bien ordenados y a la mano para quien los quiera utilizar. ¿Qué pasa si tenemos, en el caso de Alemania, por ejemplo, ellos trabajan con un sistema que todos los editores ponen sus datos en un solo lugar y a partir de ahí todas las personas que quieran vender los libros los tienen disponibles. Eso sucede en el mercado alemán y en algunos otros del mundo. En el nuestro, pues como ustedes sabrán si son editores, no sucede exactamente así. Como Jan explicaba, uno tiene que subir sus datos a todas las plataformas o como sea que lo pida un vendedor de libros. Amazon lo pide de un modo, un librero físico lo pide de otro, un librero chiquito necesita el libro y alguien tiene que cargar la información, en fin. Si todos los editores tuvieran un lugar donde pueden poner sus bases de datos, entonces esa base de datos lo puede administrar y puede enviárselo de manera automática a los libreros. Eso ahorra tiempo, ustedes sabrán mejor que yo cuánto tiempo toma desde que un libro sale a la venta hasta que está colocado, o al menos todos los libreros están avisados en dónde está. Ese sería un beneficio para el editor si tuviéramos una central o una base de datos central para todos. En el caso del vendedor, el vendedor también entra en el problema de que pues hay tantos libros en el mercado y tantas opciones que recibe lo que puede y lo que humanamente puede cargar se va haciendo poco a poco. Tomará muchísimo tiempo poder tener, si hay, Mónica ayer hablaba de que hay 20,000 novedades españolas al año, 40,000 novedades españolas al año. ¿Cómo un librero va a poder manejar los datos de 40,000 libros al año para ver qué le gustaría ofrecer en su librería o qué tipo de libros estaría interesada su clientela en comprar? Si tuviera un lugar donde puede ver todos los datos con un buscador eficaz que le permita identificar temas, autores, cosas así, entonces podría llegar de un modo mucho más sencillo a sus lectores o a sus posibles compradores. Y si tenemos como una no diría que una cultura de metadatos, pero un sistema que permite que los datos de los libros se compartan de una manera rápida y sencilla, pues quien está beneficiado al final es el cliente final. El cliente final puede encontrar el libro de un modo más sencillo. Es cierto que los libreros, yo no creo que los libreros vayan a desaparecer, y es muy bonito que existan librerías que se dedican a atender como con ese cariño e intimidad que necesita un lector, pero es cierto también que los lectores buscan lo que necesitan en Google, y Google, uno pone unas palabras clave, y si nuestro libro tiene los datos que Google puede detectar, va a aparecer, y si no, pues simplemente no va a aparecer, ¿no? Es por eso que es importante tener o contemplar como ese manejo de los metadatos en los libros. Insisto, es muy difícil que un editor se dedique a una cosa tan técnica como eso, pero hay soluciones en el mercado que permiten hacerlo. David Peman estuvo hablando con nosotros hace un momento sobre la empresa que él representa, que es Bookscan, ¿no? Nielsen, y Bookscan hizo un estudio de qué tan importantes son los metadatos para vender libros. Se publicó en 2016, se hizo con el mercado del libro en inglés, pero es muy importante, hay una referencia ahí del estudio que dice que los resultados de ese estudio aplican para casi cualquier industria del mundo, porque en realidad los estándares son pues prácticamente los mismos y los márgenes no variarían mucho. Estos son algunos resultados de esos estudios, de ese estudio que hizo Nielsen. Estos son algunos resultados de cuál es la diferencia entre los libros que tienen los metadatos correctos y los libros que no. Si los datos básicos de un libro, título, autor, precio, ISBN y portada existen o no existen, la venta, o sea, la diferencia entre unos libros que no tienen esos datos y los que lo tienen es que las ventas aumentan un 75% si esos datos básicos, solo los datos básicos, están disponibles en el sistema de los libreros. Si un libro tiene portada, en los metadatos que se comparten con los libreros se vende el 50% más. Si los datos de los libros se entregan antes de 16 semanas de que el libro esté en el mercado, las ventas suben un poquitito más, ¿no? Y, por ejemplo, si los libros están en el estándar Onyx que explicaba Jan o no están, la diferencia de ventas es de un 100%. En ese estudio que ellos sacaron para el libro del mercado inglés y norteamericano en Estados Unidos. Pues esa es la diferencia mayor. Hay una diferencia del 100%, voy a repetirlo, entre que los datos estén en una base de datos Onyx y estandarizados a que no existan ahí, ¿no? Si tienen palabras clave los libros o los metadatos de los libros se venden un 28% más. Y bueno, esos son algunos datos que nosotros extrajimos de ese reporte que está en internet, está en inglés. Es cierto que es para el mercado inglés y norteamericano, pero pues muchos de esos datos aplican para cualquier mercado del mundo. Es solo para demostrar la importancia que tienen tener esos metadatos o pensar en ellos cuando se comercializan libros. Y ahora Jan va a hablar de otra cosa.
Gracias, Carlos. May you please pass this to me? Thank you very much. So that is what we're already doing in Germany. Like we have already this kind of centralized data hub, and like I already told you in the beginning of this presentation or this workshop, it's called like VLB, Verzeichnis lieferbarer Bücher, or German books in print. So we are dealing with this kind of business since a long time. So we are completely based on working with metadata, the MVB. We are doing this since 1971. That was the analog age, so clearly we didn't have a centralized metadata hub. Our metadata hub was just books, so we had huge shelves of books which are just collecting this huge information about which titles were available in the German market. And 15 years ago, I think we set up the first real database. So this digital age started and we needed to move on because to make things more efficient. That was 15 years ago, and the status quo now is that we recreated this platform, so we make an update, and that is the actual version of the VLB. We launched it in 2015, so we have right now absolutely up-to-date centralized metadata hub, which is meant to be not only for Germany, it's meant to be for the German-speaking market, so including Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. We have included in this database more than 2.5 million active titles. That is the active titles you really can buy in this market. Beside this, we collect 3.1 million titles which are out of stock. I think our database goes back to the mid of the 80s, so you can have a look, even you can browse to all the files, all the titles which have been in the earlier days available. We have more than 22,000 publishers connected to the systems who provide the information to us. And on the other side, there are 4,000 booksellers and 80 distributors which access the metadata to work with it. Then we have a very special situation in Germany. Like here in Mexico, we have a fixed price. And because it was always a problem that nobody knows which is the one price, and even if you are using technology from time to time, some mistakes happen, and so there were two different prices. By law, we are now in Germany the principal database for the fixed retail prices. So if you use a price to sell a book, you clearly have to use our metadata, and that decision is based on that we just have the highest quality of metadata in the whole market by far. The opportunity of digital products is that they even work in different other markets, and that is something we are doing right now. We started our business in Brazil 2017, so because the name VLB is something that doesn't mean anything to anybody else except of the Germans. We called it now Metabooks, and we already implemented it in the Brazilian market, and our goal for next time is to bring this technology to the Spanish-speaking market as well, starting with Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Argentina, but overall it can be used by everyone. And I think this is really important because it's about giving one solution for everybody. So like, you have many of the publishers here have subsidiaries in the different countries. So if they are not only active in just one country, one Spanish-speaking Latin American country, they are even active in others, and so they can exchange the data more easily because there's just one database. And it's about strengthening the whole book markets in Latin America. But what you have seen is just that this is the not so nice looking part. It's more a technical thing, manage metadata and exchange it. But this is something that is necessary to do even other steps. And we think that what you can do and what is much more nice looking is the idea of the future of book promotion. And as I said to the beginning, there's a thing that publishers need to announce new titles to the bookstores. So you want to advertise your novelties. And to bring these, you use your huge catalogs, you have to print them, that costs a lot of money, and then you need salespeople all around the country and ship them. And even if you want to, if you as a Mexican publisher want to announce this title in Guatemala or in Colombia or something like this, you need to take a plane to move there, or even if you are moving around here in Mexico, you need to take a plane because all distances are so far. So why don't make it digital? So therefore, we created in Germany the platform VLB-TIX, and that is a very new technology. So even for the German market, this is a huge innovation to say that this advertisement of books, these exchange of catalogs of information of what is new in the market, can be completely done in an easy-to-use web interface. So in the end, clearly you need salespersons who do this personally, but the first part can be done directly with through a kind of a platform. So, but as I already said, that is a step that can only be done if you have a centralized metadata hub, because you need to make something like this. You need to collect all the metadata of a market to have full information, to have a high quality of information, and so on. So that is how something like VLB-TIX, just to give you a view what you can do. So like a normal web page, you have a quick search, you can just type in and you have a brief look of what is the newest things. In the end, you can get here some catalogs displayed. So these are not titles. If you click on one of these, you get a list of titles which are included in the catalog. So normally, publishers create just one catalog because it's too expensive to make individual catalogs. But with a technology like this, because it's so easy and so cheap to create new catalogs, you can make individual catalogs which you can pass to different bookstores. So you know that this bookstore is focused on science books, you can just collect your science books in one catalog and move this catalog to him, provide this information. Or if you know another bookstore has just criminal literature, you move exactly this catalog to him. So you create for everyone the special own unique catalog. And earlier we have talked about the kind information is presented. And that is the nice thing with such a tool like VLBTix. You can enrich the data with graphical materials. So it's not only about the cover of a book, it's about you can use this kind of stage what you can see here right now, and you can produce, make it a little bit more like marketing, so you can show it in a much nicer way. Or you even can provide marketing material. So as a publisher, you can say, we already created this kind of marketing material, and booksellers can just order directly through this kind of platform marketing material. So what you can see here is like, there's a part that is mostly technical. So yeah, you need to create this technical basis to enrich metadata and to collect metadata to create complete catalogs. But in the end, it's about making even more possible. And I think yesterday there was a talk, oh no, it was today. It was you that you have talked about UX and displaying data and how people react to data and what they see. So it's about presenting, and to do this step, that is something that must be done step by step. And I think by myself that to do these steps, so start to creating centralized metadata hubs, to get to even then get to tools like VLBTix, or there are even other options what you can do with it. I think this is a necessary step for nearby every book market, because the economical systems all over the world are struggling right now. So you need to think about how you can be more efficient. And that means how you can exchange data in a more faster way, or in a faster way. So you don't have to put that much time, effort, and to spend not that much time on creating metadata, exchange it, and so on. That is the first step to save money. And on the other hand side, it's about gaining more sales. And overall, it's not about doing just this, it's about getting more people to read books. Because if you have a reader which is just getting the right book he wants to, because you can present it to him in the right way, he will be happy because he finds the right book. And if he's happy to find the right book, he will be over the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's about gaining overall the sales in a market, so creating bigger book markets. So that is what I believe in, what you can do with such technologies. So thank you very much for your attention. I think we have a little bit time left, so if there are any questions from your side, feel free to ask. If I will put right now a pin in my ear, so I will be even able to understand Spanish. Otherwise, Carlos is by my side, and he can even answer your questions in Spanish as well. So thank you very much.
¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta o algo que quiera compartir? Ok, Metabooks, el proyecto Metabooks trabaja con el estándar Onyx, sí. The question was if Metabooks works with the Onyx database.
So clearly, Metabooks and VLB are based on an Onyx. The nice thing is that you don't have handled it on yourself. So normally, if you use such a platform, the nice thing is you even don't see that there's Onyx. It's just that it's about providing information between one platform and the other. Like publishers can use a web interface to put in the data by hand. So they create the information, but there even are publishers which use their own systems already in their publishing house. And then they can connect between these systems, or we push this information out to the booksellers in exactly the format Onyx. But yeah, the lucky thing is you don't get in touch normally with it. But in the background, it's just Onyx.
Sí, en particular el proyecto Metabooks también hay que decir, sí, sabemos que los editores ya tienen sus bases de datos cargadas de algún tipo de manera, y puede ser que con algún tipo de estándar. Parte del trabajo que hace Metabooks es precisamente transformar eso en una base de datos Onyx que después, pues, como puede embonarse universalmente a cualquier sistema. Sí. Is it changes the Sinly? Is it covers what Sinly is not doing?
Exactly, like Carlos said, we are not using the SINLI standard, so normally it's not meant to be to provide the SINLI information, but there's always an option to create interfaces so you can translate these one format to the other. So if you have already a database with SINLI data, you can just create a new interface that is easily be done technically, and then you can import it from one system to the other, so they can talk to each other. That is the nice thing about standards, because if you already have a standard, it doesn't matter which kind, it's just a question of translating in the end.
Sí, y también una diferencia es que la diferencia o una diferencia importante entre el Sinly y el Onyx es que el Onyx tiene como muchos más campos que en los que se puede agregar información a los libros. Sinly fue una base de datos que se intentó hacer hace algunos años y pues sus campos eran limitados. En el caso de Onyx hay como más de 300 opciones para subir información.
I think even it's more than 700. Sorry to correct you.
Okay, más de 200.
It's just really, it's much too much in the end.
Sí, Edgar.
En el caso de las librerías, en Alemania lo tienen muy resuelto, pero en México, ¿tienen ustedes algún convenio con la Asociación de Librerías o con algún grupo de librerías que esté ya o vaya a utilizar el sistema?
Sí, bueno, en particular este proyecto, o sea, hemos venido a hablar de los metadatos, es cierto que representamos a Metabooks, ¿no? Y en el caso específico de Metabooks, una de las cosas importantes es que es un sistema que, si ya hay una librería que tiene un sistema propio que usa, lo único que hace Metabooks es darle los datos correctos. Digamos, la librería no tiene que cambiar de sistema para poder adaptarse a Metabooks, más bien la tecnología es la que se adapta a lo que ya existe. Y en particular en el caso de la entrada de Metabooks a México, justamente ahora o en estas semanas, aprovechando que está aquí el equipo de MBB y de la feria, estamos teniendo reuniones con principalmente las grandes cadenas de librerías mexicanas para lograr un acuerdo en el que ellos utilicen el sistema. Las librerías mexicanas, hay que decir, han invertido ya mucho tiempo y dinero en conseguir un sistema que les ayuda a mejorar los datos que tienen de los libros. Están muy interesados en encontrar esta solución. La respuesta que hemos recibido de ellos es prácticamente que si no nos apuramos a hacerlo nosotros, lo van a hacer ellos de todas formas. Así que creo que estamos avanzando en esa negociación pues de una manera rápida, la verdad. El proyecto Metabooks está pensado para lanzarse en el verano de este año. Perdón, Philip, te ganaron.
Carlos, una preguntita.
Sí.
¿Cómo es que Google rankea un título cuando ustedes, digamos, facilitan a dos tiendas la misma información? ¿De qué se vale para decir que un usuario busca una información y la mía, por ejemplo, podría aparecer antes que la tuya?
Is a ranking of Google? Yes.
I'm not sure if I got the question in the right way because of the translation, but if I get it right, your question was about how does Google rank your titles, so how this ranking works. So I think most of all, at the end in the book market is information about the sales is used, so how many titles were sold by something. But Google works in a different way. Beside this sales data, they collect every kind of data. So it's about something called SEO, so you make it give you information on your website in the right way, or it's about how you display the information on your website. So Google is crawling just to websites, having a look at which information is displayed, and in the background you can even give additional information which is just meant to be for the search engine. And then there's something included in these rankings that is how often a URL was accessed. So because if you are using the Google search engine, they recognize every click on it, and if more people are clicking on one of these URLs, it gets just higher ranked. And clearly there's another option in Google. You can just advertise your own URLs. You can push it by give Google money, but that is normally not our business.
Sí, Sí, lo que pasa es que los metadatos ayudan, digamos, si no existen los metadatos correctos del libro, es cierto que Google no los va a identificar, pero Google para hacer sus rankings tiene, como explica Jan, muchos otros mecanismos, que tu página web sea correcta, que tu página web esté como la programación esté limpia, en fin, cosas que van más allá de los metadatos. Es cierto que los metadatos son una parte central, pero no es definitiva para ese ranking, ¿no? Tiene que ver con muchas otras cosas alrededor de la promoción del libro con las herramientas digitales.
Yeah, just one thing in addition. One thing in addition to, oh, sorry.
Pues sí, hay dos caminos. Uno es que uno paga y es el más rápido, y otro es eso que se llama orgánico, que es tener una programación siempre bien actualizada, contenidos nuevos, en fin, y de manera orgánica Google lo va subiendo. Claro que eso pasa, es el camino lento.
Dos preguntas. ¿Este es un proyecto financiado por los editores o cofinanciado por editores y libreros? El primero. Y el segundo, para un país como Guatemala, que es mi caso, y hay muchos otros que es cierto que son pequeños, pero que tienen una producción local que no representa más del 13%, por ejemplo, de las ventas, y que ningún origen representa más del 35% de las ventas, de manera que vienen libros de distintos orígenes. ¿Hay solución vía Metabooks para acceder a esa información?
Sí, la respuesta de quién lo financia es, lo financia quien usa el servicio, es decir, lo financian tanto los editores como los libreros. Para hacerlo de un modo que sea justo para todos, el modelo de Metabooks es que los editores pagan por cada título activo que suben a la plataforma. Se paga una pequeña cuota, de modo que, para empezar, eso hace que no importa el tamaño del editorial, o sea, no importa que sea una editorial que tiene 2,000 títulos o 10, lo que importa es qué tan buenos son los datos que tiene, de modo que si tú en esos 10 títulos tienes el mismo tema que el que tiene 2,000, cuando un librero busque ese libro o el tema del título, si tus datos son mejores que los de él, tus datos le aparecen primero al librero. Eso hace que, digamos, todo se ponga en un piso parejo. Se cobra una pequeña cuota a cada editor por cada título, así es que cada uno paga en función de cuántos libros tiene, ¿no? Y en el caso del librero, lo que se hace es por tamaño de ventas. Por tamaño de ventas se cobra una cuota fija anual para usar la plataforma que tiene todos los datos.
And what is really important to mention here is that this fee is based on some calculations, so we try to make it fair for everyone. The problem is to offer such a service, it costs ourselves a lot to make it really working in every country. So it's about that. I think we choose a fee which is less enough, so you will in the end don't spend more money, because anyways people have to work on metadata, and if you have to invest a lot of more time, that costs you more than being part of such a project. So that is like we handle, and it's about making things so much more efficient that in the end you pay less.
No, yo quería añadir que tú hablabas del editor, que da igual si es grande o pequeño y que los títulos aparecen de igual manera, pero creo que incluso más importante es que todos los libreros reciben toda la información. Da igual que seas un librero pequeño o grande y según tu facturación pagues poco o mucho, pero todos reciben la misma cantidad y la misma información. Es decir, que puedes, como librero pequeño, en teoría, competir con cualquier librero grande a nivel de información.
Al menos en la selección de libros. Y, o sea, es importante añadir que mantener una base de datos, eso que parece tan sencillo que es estandarizar los metadatos para compartirlos de modo sencillo y mantener la tecnología tan actual como sea posible, pues requiere una inversión permanente, y ese es lo que cubre los montos que se pagan, ¿no? Las cuotas que se pagan son para cubrir ese tipo de costos. Es cierto que este proyecto es apoyado por la Feria del Libro de Frankfurt, que es, además de, digamos, de tener el dinero para hacerla subsistir, es un tema como desde el área de negocios internacionales de la feria, de lo que se trata es como de compartir las experiencias y los proyectos que funcionan muy bien para una industria con otras industrias que no están tan adelantadas en esos temas.
Estábamos comentando aquí, yo no he estado durante todo el taller, pero estábamos comentando aquí que estamos hablando todo el tiempo de editores y de libreros, pero también existen distribuidores y en Alemania también están incluidos en esa plataforma. Entonces, quizá alguna información para posibles distribuidores interesados en saber cómo funciona la parte del distribuidor.
About distributors. Speak something. How do you think how MetaBooks works for distributors?
Even distributors have to handle with metadata. They are between the publishers and the booksellers, so there's indirect exchange from information from publishers to the booksellers, but as well there's an information exchange between publishers to distributors to the booksellers. So they are kind in the middle, the distributors, and even like I know here, they're distributors. They have a mixed up business. They are publishers as well, so they are on both sides. But in the end, everyone has to, what we have shown in this nice graph, how metadata is delivered in the whole market. Everyone needs to handle with it, and the idea of this centralized metadata is that everyone gets the same information and it's accessed centrally. So if you're a distributor or bookseller, anyways, you need this information, so you get it from the same source.
Bueno, en la discusión, lo que hablábamos con Marifé, no me refería tanto, no sé si hay ahora mismo aquí entre el público compañeros distribuidores de México. Mi visión desde España es que como distribuidora soy la primera interesada en que los libreros tengan buenos metadatos. Nuestra experiencia española es que la base de datos que manejamos en mayor medida es DILBE y a DILBE solo aportan metadatos los editores. No todos los editores son diligentes con los metadatos. Es verdad que ahora en España la mayor parte de los editores tienen DILBE y suben datos, pero quizás solo suben los datos más obligatorios y claro, yo como distribuidora estoy muy interesada en que los metadatos sean de calidad, haya los máximos posibles para que el librero y el público final, en definitiva, tenga acceso y podamos vender todos más.
Sí, creo que funciona, o sea, este caso de MetaBooks funciona más o menos igual para este caso de distribuidores, que son varios sellos, o por ejemplo, con las agrupaciones de publicaciones universitarias. Es decir, es cierto que hay un editor que aporta algunos datos, pero tú que estás interesada en que se vendan, claro que quieres tenerlos más. En ese caso, lo que hace MetaBooks es hacer un superusuario, digamos, que tiene usuarios pequeños. Entonces tú eres el superusuario de todo lo que distribuyes y luego cada editor puede agregar los datos y si tú quisieras agregar más a cada libro, tú como superusuario vas agregando lo que tú crees que necesitas para el canal de venta específico.
Y en este punto me quedo pensando en bibliotecas. Cuando hablabas tú de la diligencia, creo que sí hay un gremio que es muy diligente con los metadatos y que trabaja muy en conjunto, son las bibliotecas. Entonces, no sé si MetaBooks tenga algún trabajo con este gremio.
I think there's a good example in Brazil right now because we have a business model and we need to earn money, otherwise we are not able to run such a thing. We are focusing on the commercial market, but on the other hand side, we try to cooperate with everyone because it's important that everyone will take part of such a process, that everyone can take an advantage. And in Brazil, it's like that. We made, in the end of last year, we made a deal with the Ministry of Culture and they pay a real small fee, so libraries just can use the system for free and connect just to it. So they will even be able to access this information as well.
Ahí yo agregaría, es cierto que muchos datos de las bibliotecas, claro que son muy útiles, pero luego hay unos datos muy específicos para el canal de venta, lo que el librero puede decir, obvio el precio, pero también hay otros datos específicos para el canal de venta que no se usan para las bibliotecas. Lo que es cierto es que estos datos enriquecidos ayudan también, lo que explica Jan es un ejemplo de cómo, por ejemplo, puede ayudar un sistema así para la selección de libros que se hacen para compras de bibliotecas, por ejemplo.
Aparte de eso, en Alemania todas las noches hay un transfer de datos directamente entre la plataforma de libros disponibles en Alemania y la Biblioteca Nacional. por ejemplo. Entonces, es algo que las bibliotecas tienen muchos, o sea, tienen muchos metadatos que tienen otros estándares, otros nombres, otros acrónimos, que es el URN o no sé cómo, pero es igual. Hay un intercambio de datos directo y fluente todas las noches.
No sé si hay alguna otra pregunta, pero en todo caso nosotros, ahí es César, en lo que llega a su micrófono diré que nosotros estamos por aquí, pues tenemos toda la información que se necesite o que quieran ustedes que les compartamos acerca del proyecto de Metabooks en particular, pero también cualquier pregunta que hubiera sobre qué son los metadatos después de esta conversación.
Si bien entiendo, los metadatos los entregan las editoriales y si tú contratas también como librero, puedes también ampliar esa base de metadatos.
A ver, los datos entran a través de los editores o un distribuidor que conozca los libros que tiene cada editor, y los libreros lo que reciben es toda la información que está en la plataforma de todos los sellos editoriales. Digamos, lo del editor y el distribuidor es la entrada de los datos y la salida es la que se da a los libreros.
Ok, gracias.
Bueno, felicidades por por la presentación. Me dijeron que aparecen primero los que tengan mejores metadatos. ¿Cómo se mide cuáles son los mejores metadatos? O sea, los que estén más completos o que sea de una editorial que tenga renombre, no sé.
Sí, bueno, en el caso particular de Metabooks incluso hay, o sea, por ejemplo, hay unos datos básicos, título, autor, ISBN y tal, pero luego hay unos datos obligatorios, que en el caso de Brasil y Alemania se decide con la industria. En el caso de Alemania son 7 datos, pero en el caso de Brasil, por ejemplo, se decidió que fueran 15 datos los que se necesitan, ¿no? Que son como los que uno cree que son importantes para el canal de venta. Y luego todavía la plataforma Metabooks hace una pequeña como clasificación de los datos en donde a ti te pone unos tipos de medallas, como oro, plata y bronce. De modo que los libros, cuando tú llegas a que tus libros son oro, significa que tienes como todos los datos que podrías compartir con los libreros. La idea de esos como rankings es que tú puedas llevar todos los libros que subes a la plataforma al nivel oro, ¿no? Es un pequeño juego que es útil para quien lo usa como un simple usuario, pues, para saber que también están tus datos.
Ok, y otra pregunta. Teniendo en cuenta que los metadatos sirven también para encontrar el libro que yo quiero como cliente final y que yo hago una búsqueda, digamos que el tipo de búsqueda que yo haga, las palabras que yo utilice también se pueden aumentar en su base de datos.
A ver, lo que pasa es que no es una plataforma para el usuario final, es una plataforma que conecta al editor con el librero. Así es que todos los datos, quien es el responsable de subirlos es el editor. En este momento Metabooks no recupera los datos que aporten los clientes. Lo que sí recupera es, por ejemplo, si hay una entrevista con el autor, un tráiler del libro, un video promocional, un programa de radio donde se habló. Esa información sí se puede agregar, pero la tiene que agregar quien maneja los datos, que es el editor o el distribuidor. Bueno, pues creo que muchas gracias. Gracias, Jan.
Thank you very much from my side as well. Thank you, Carlos.
Y bueno, estaremos por aquí para cualquier cosa que podamos hablar.
los nombres, sí, y los nombres.